Hi, Mr. C here. Today is the next step in the Advanced Woods project. Well, what we have here now is one of our leg pieces with the tenons already cut on it. And what we have to do is prepare the veneer for the faces and the edge of this piece, as well as the other one. Remember, we have two legs to this project. So I've taken this piece and I went and measured this. And this measures 28.5 inches. Is a little bit longer than what we need. The exact length is 27.5. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've marked the veneer on this piece here from this edge to this line. This perfect line is at 28.5, so it gives me 1 inch longer than what I need for the final. I'm doing this on purpose just so that way I can make sure I have enough just hanging over either end. It is kind of a slight angle because due to the construction method that we're going to have and the way it looks, that we need to go ahead and make sure we have a little bit extra. It's not a big deal. So I found some straight grain that was donated by a local millworking company that you guys have selected for us for this project. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this. So I've marked these with the appropriate length. But this is the very first step. And also what I've done here is I have my tape measure, my T-square, and then you want to be very, very careful. Whenever I'm cutting veneer, I like to use a surgical scalpel. I learned this from a gentleman that is really, really well known working with veneers, and he has his own series. And I found that his work is extremely nice and he's extremely knowledgeable. He studied over in Europe and he learned from some masters in Italy, and I found that teaching his methods in the classroom has worked out really, really well for us. So I'm going to just go ahead and show you what we have to do to cut this veneer. Now this is the leg piece. I'm just going to use a straight edge to help me go ahead and cut this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my surgical knife here, scalpel. I'm just going to go ahead, just strike along the pencil line. I'm not pushing down really, really hard. And I can hear it just cracking just a little bit as it's cutting the surface. So I have several pieces here, so we're just going to lift up this piece very carefully and then snap that piece off, just like so. I'm going to set this one right here. Okay, so now it's the next piece. I'm going to go ahead. So we have the knife follow right along that edge, and like I was saying before, is I don't add a whole bunch of pressure. Just going ahead, cutting it across the grain here. I like to use the scalpel because it is so much sharper than an X-Acto knife. But if you don't have access to a scalpel, an X-Acto knife will work. Just make sure you do not push really, really hard. Because if you're pulling, as I'm pulling, I'm not worried about the grain right here, but if you're pulling and you're pushing really hard, it's going to crack out, especially near the end here, so you'll pull that right away. That's not what you want to have happen. So, just a couple pounds of pressure. Another one. And then we have this piece here. Just going ahead and striking this across here. Not adding a whole bunch of pressure, but just going ahead and covering it. Okay, so I have these pieces. So these pieces are coartesan white oak. And we've selected these, and I think we're gonna get a great balance. When we take the two of these pieces, what we're gonna do is we're gonna stitch these two together to give you this look here. Let me move the scalpel out of the way here. When we put these two together, and we veneer tape these together, this is gonna be a pretty dramatic straight grain look to it. And this is gonna be on the two legs and in the base. You've selected for the top to have 4 different separate veneers that are in a pattern that's very dramatic. And with this being very straight grain, it's not gonna take away from the viewer, or whoever's looking at the project, looking at the top, because that's where you want your attention to be placed. So selecting these grains, this type of grain in this structure is decorative, but yet not gonna take away from what your overall appearance is, what you're trying to achieve. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stitch these two together like this, and this will end up being a panel for one of these faces on one of these legs. So right now I have these two pieces, it would be one face, these two here, that would be another face, so that would be one leg. And then the leftover excess could be the left and right sides to the edges of the leg. So that's those pieces of veneer there. And I'm gonna go ahead and slide this up. We're gonna do the same thing in this one, okay? So I'll take this, place this here. Now we have to be really careful. We do have some separation of the veneer on this side. Okay, so I grab my scalpel. Remember, this is an extremely sharp tool, so you want to make sure that you're really careful with it. Granted, I'm the only one here in the shop right now, but when you return, or if you're working with some other people, you need to be really aware of where you leave this. Sounds pretty good. That's that cracked out piece I was discussing. Place that there. Going ahead and striking this across here a few times. Not a big deal. Okay, move just a little bit on me. Move that back. Make sure I only have one piece of veneer here. Go ahead and I'll place this one here. Now remember, this is super delicate material. You don't want to be manhandling this, okay? It will pull apart on you. This material is really, really thin. You know, without putting a digital caliper on here, I couldn't say exactly, but it's probably like a 32nd of an inch thick, maybe a little bit less. So it will break very easily. It will come apart very easily if you're not very careful with it. What we want is we want to have just enough. We want to have enough material cut to approximate length to make sure we can get the left, right, and sides of this piece. Okay? Now I have one piece left. And then we store all of our veneer in the back rack in the storage room where it lays flat. Now, we will be going through the process of flattening this, because we are going to put this in the vacuum press later with the proper glue for this. Okay, so I'm going to take my scalpel, place it right here so I can see this very easily. This material here we're not going to use. Now, this is for the leg, for both legs. Now this piece here is your bottom base piece that has your mortises for the legs to get registered inside of. So move that over. Now I did take the liberty of cutting this veneer before I started filming or videoing this, so that way you don't have to watch the same process essentially. But I wanted to show you, here's the two pieces for the base piece, and these will get seamed together like this, where the veneer will match up very, very beautiful for the top and bottom and the sides. So now we have all the veneer cut to approximate length for the legs and the base. So I'm going to set these here. Okay, now the selection for the top, we have 4 different veneers that we're going to put together to put it into a pattern that will be very, very dramatic.